to this edition of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. Week into the off season, a lot of the awards we talked about last week. Man, I'm glad I didn't put any bets down for the Gold Gloves in the National League because I'd have been way off. Mookie Betts didn't win one at all, and it was down for two different ones. Silver Slugger was pretty much where I thought it would be. My one surprise, though, Dan, in Gold Gloves, I don't know if you saw, but, usually they kind of – you got to have a history of being good at your position before they acknowledge you as a Gold Glover until you take over whoever spot was there before you. But Anthony Volpe winning it his rookie year, I thought that means that kid can play some shortstop for the Yankees.
Well, there's two things there. One, they're just the voters went by just what they did this year,
right?
Because if they were going to give it for longevity, Mookie Betts would have won something,
right? But usually it's always in the back of your mind. This guy's
but
really
they
good.
gave it for how well the person played the position this year.
Right.
And for him to beat out Seager and some of the others was outstanding. Then the other thing was he was a Yankee. I mean, if you're a New York Yankee, if you're from New York, Chicago, or LA, you got a leg up. So you just, but the kid can play.
Yeah, but I don't know how long he's going to be in New York. I don't know how long he's going to be in New York if he can't hit, and he's had some issues with the bat.
Well, they don't have a whole lot of options with all the payroll there.
Right. And I don't know. The rumor is they're putting a package together for offering for Soto.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to see. In the Silver Sluggers, two more rookies stood out. Gunnar Henderson won one for the utility or whatever,
right?
And Adley Rutschman won it for catchers. So,
I expected that. I mean, those Rutschman.
Rutschman's not really a rookie; he's second year,
but he can stroke. One's 24 and one's 25. I mean, you can't.
Gunnar, I think, is only like 21.
Okay, he might be even younger. Yeah,
might be. I
mean, they've got about 5 people on that team that are 25 or younger.
Well, that Jackson Holiday, who will probably be up next year, I think he's like 19. Their number one pick this past year. So be exciting to see those young birds next year. And after they got a taste of the playoffs, maybe they can make some moves, get pitching. But that was awesome. Did you see any of? I mean, I saw like most outstanding players. No surprises there. I mean, it was who you think, like Acuna and Ohtani, and that was voted on by the rest of the players. So that shows a lot of respect for what their seasons were. Nothing crazy and none of that. Snell and Cole winning it for pitching. That's probably going to be your Cy Young Award winners. It's a kind of a wait and see maybe on Cole because the American League's a little bit more wide open. But Snell most likely win it for National League. So it was interesting week of awards. Like you said last week, I don't know if I just think this year, is it just me because I love baseball so much and I have my eye on what's going on? Or do you think they're pushing these awards a little bit more to have like an extra week of because you know how like football is year round. Is baseball trying to push a little bit more of some of this stuff so they're year round now? Or because it kind of felt that way last year. They got the combine now. They have baseball has a combine, if nobody knows, that's on MLB. They do a draft thing now they moved it to the All-Star break, so it's part of the All-Star week, which I thought was brilliant to spotlight these young guys. but it just seems like the awards this year are a lot more being pushed this year than they have in
Well, there's
years.
another thing too, and this is with these awards, they've stretched them out a little bit. One this week, did 2 or 3 this week.
Right.
It's like the bowls. It's like the
Right.
bowl games. The extra bowl games are for ESPN to fill up their programming at night and sell more car insurance.
Right.
And it's the same thing with these awards. MLB has got to fill hours of broadcasting time. So, hey, guys, let's do the Silver Slugger one night and the Rookie of the Year one night and the Most Valuable Player one night. And
because the big awards are this week, and I think they're doing it. Back in the day, it used to be one day, and it was all in the newspaper.
Yeah,
like,
the next morning
you had to read it in the newspaper.
Dispatch.
Right, and that wasn't too long ago. That was MLB. When MLB came along, they started showing who won, but now it's like a whole ceremony thing, and it's I don't know. I kind of like it. I like the winter meetings. I like the right now they got what the some type of meetings going on right now. I guess everybody was sick at it.
Yeah, they had the general managers had that meeting, and then a flu bug went through there, and they had to shut it down.
Right. So I mean, we've already got some moves. We got they did come out with a list of who got offered packages. So if they do get go with another team, they'll get a draft pick. Which I noticed, I talked. Reese Hoskins for the Phillies did not get offered anything, so he's definitely a free agent. I think the offer for this year was $24 million or something ridiculous. So it was like Ohtani.
The Phillies, they have their first baseman now.
Right.
Bryce Harper's their first baseman, so they don't need Hoskins.
Right. I know you don't want Kyle Schwarber in the outfield, but he's left-handed, where Reese Hoskins is right-handed. You got a Castellanos is on there. That's your one right-hander. You're kind of heavy on the left with some of those, but I'm going to talk more about Reese Hoskins later. But that was an interesting list to look at to see who got offered and who didn't. Every pitcher got offered because it's such a premium. If you're a pitcher and you're in a free agency, you're going to see pitchers with a 7 ERA getting millions and millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, yep. So that's because that's pitching still wins.
Yeah, pitching is and it's a premium. It's such a You look at the teams that were bad, you could point straight to their pitching staff. You got to have 2 pitchers in a regular season. Most definitely in the playoffs. In the regular season, you probably need 3. And, I mean, we talked about it before. It's kind of ridiculous now where you get to the playoffs and you don't have a 3rd or 4th pitcher good enough to start a game, and you're going to do a bullpen start. That drives me crazy in the regular season, much less playoffs.
Well, and you better have a bullpen.
You better have a bullpen.
Because nobody pitches complete games anymore.
Right. Well, they really can't. I was looking at before we got into this, because I heard it from these guys that the remember when guys. And then I finally said, you can't say remember when if you weren't there to witness it. So don't tell me that you remember when Sandy Koufax. No, you don't remember it either. You remember reading about it, but you don't remember because you weren't there. You can't be the same age as me and go, you remember when Sandy? No, I don't. You don't. I'm 52. I don't remember Sandy Koufax pitching. You know why? Because he wasn't pitching when I was alive. I barely remember Johnny Bench playing. I remember more of Johnny Bench with the baseball bunch than I do as him actually playing games. I don't remember. I feel like I remember Hank Aaron's home run. I know we were sitting there watching the game, but I was so young.
You were 2.
Yes, but I've seen it so many times in replay.
I forgot who was sitting there. There was 2 of us in there. There was one of the neighbors was in there. He was in there with me, and you were walking around in front of the TV when he hit the home run.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it. I said, son, you're not going to remember this, but you just saw a record, a new home run record.
Might have been home KB. KB used to come over quite a bit at that time.
Who was that?
KB? Was it him?
It might have been KB, yeah.
Back in the Brown and Williamson days?
Yeah, when we played softball together.
Yeah. But, you know, that's starting to eat at me a little bit. The remember when guys. But you have to remember, like, for one, the mounds were changed in 65, I believe, due to Bob Gibson and some of these guys that were just had less than 1 ERAs to make it for the hitters. And now the hitters are just so advanced, and pitchers are asked to give 100% on every pitch, and they don't pitch to contact because everybody can hit it into the 10th row. Stadiums are bandboxes. So pitching, we have to remember that the game in that aspect has changed. So when guys don't pitch a whole game, you know, 120 pitches in a whole game, that's because they had a lot of innings with 10 pitches, 12 pitches, where they had, you know, a ground ball and 2 fly balls off of 10 pitches or whatever. They induced outs with pitching to contact. They really can't do that anymore.
Well, I remember watching Tommy John pitch a complete game. He was a single ball pitcher, and he pitched a complete game one day. And I remember, I can remember like it was yesterday. He threw 83 pitches in 9 innings. He threw 83 pitches because he was throwing strikes. So everybody came up there. I mean, they were swinging. They didn't want to get behind in the count, so they knew they better take. If they took one pitch, they were going to swing on the next one.
Well, and talking to your point a few weeks ago, there's so many full count at bats because the pitchers want strikeouts. They want strikeouts.
Yeah, and they can go 0-2, and then they try to get the batter to get himself out.
Right.
So they don't. They throw the and if you're going to throw the ball off the plate, at least make it look like it might come close.
Right.
You throw it 4 feet outside, the guy says, of course, the guy's not going to swing. You bounce it in the dirt.
That's preached at an early age. You know, when I was in Little League, we didn't talk about that much growing up. But when I got to the high school age, the coaches preached that. Our high school baseball coach said if you had 2 strikes and no balls and our pitcher threw it in the strike zone, he better have his running shoes on after the game.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't want to have an 0-2 count and somebody get a base hit.
Right.
But on the other hand, what good does it do you if you go 0-2 and then you wind up walking the guy? I mean,
yeah, I've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And I mean, and these guys.
And one reason you don't do that, and I coach Little League, so one of the reasons you don't preach that in Little League is because you're just thankful when you got a couple of kids that can get the ball over the plate.
Right. Right. Well, and also, I mean, even when I was playing in the 70s and 80s, we were on pitch counts in Little League. So you wanted your best pitcher to get as many outs as he possibly could, as quickly as possible. I think more when younger was you couldn't pitch more than 1 game a week or in a 7-day span or 5 day. It was something ridiculous. But you could pitch as many as you wanted until we got into the upper leagues. But anyway, yeah, I've heard a lot of the remember wins. You know, I sat there and I started pulling up so everybody wants to diss the leadoff hitter for the Phillies, Schwarber. Yes, his batting average should be better. He, you know, if 195, if he was just a 220 hitter, 225, we would be talking about him as being an all-star player because he's
his on base. His on base is big because he walks all the time.
380 on base percentage, and he scores more than 100 runs a season. And he knocks in 100 runs a season. I mean, what more do you want from your leadoff hitter when you look at those numbers? He's not going to steal any bases. He's not going to score from first unless you hit it into the first row. But, he's not your prolific leadoff man, but he gets on base and he works the count. So your guys and he'll jump. If you throw a first pitch fastball and jump on him, he's going to jump you and knock it out. But he works counts, so your guys get to see the pitcher early on, which is still a thing.
Yeah, well, the batting average doesn't mean much anymore. I mean, it's just it's how many runs you score. So, I mean, Max Muncy just signed a nice contract, and he had a 222 average, but he had 38 home runs and 105 RBIs. So,
right.
Anytime even back, I'm one of the remember when guys. And even back then, if you had over 100 RBIs in a year, you were awesome.
Right.
That was a big deal.
That's
getting
still
over 100
benchmark.
RBIs.
100 RBIs is huge.
That was Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. Right. I mean, that was your 100 Al Kaline.
I mean, there's teams now. I don't think the Mets had a 100 RBI guy this year.
But a lot of the guys don't hit 100 RBI. I mean, now a lot of these teams are looking for 85. If they can get 85, they consider that pretty good.
Yeah, they look at on base percentage more than they do anything else for hitting like that. No BS where you're slugging and all that. You slug.
The only time where your prowess at the plate, as far as a batting average is concerned, and this is where Arizona was guilty of this in that last game, and that is when you get people on base. If you're hitting 195 or 200 and you can't get the base hit when they got people on base, then you're just hurt. You're hurting your team.
Well, actually, the Phillies was horrible during the playoffs with batting average.
They stopped hitting home runs.
Yeah, and I talked to my Philly friends. I was like, you're going to be in some trouble those games where the home runs don't come in.
Exactly. See, and they made the comment, the Astros, when they beat Minnesota, they were laughing and all that up in the booth. They, the Astros, 90% of their runs come in on home runs. 90% of their RBIs are home runs. So I'm sitting there going, okay, when they stop hitting home runs, what happens then?
Right.
Well, against Texas, they stop hitting them.
Yep. I still feel like you need guys in your lineup that are 300-ish hitters that get on base. I still would like the on base guys. I still want the guys that put balls in play. They might hit into some double plays, but I've always said it's, they want to talk about percentages. You strike out, you have 0% of anything happening. You put it in play, the percentages start working in a lot of different ways. But you got to put the ball in play. Striking out and putting your bat back in the rack only means you get to use the same bat at the next at bat because you didn't hit the ball. You didn't break it. So, I mean, that to me is, I hate that. I wish more guys would, that Alvarez kid, not a kid, grown ass man, really impressed me with the Astros and the playoffs, not with his home run prowess, but just putting balls in play. I thought that was just, his approach at the plate was just amazing to me. You can be a power hitter and still put balls in play. To think you don't, you can still hit the third strike out the park if it's in your spot.
Mickey Mantle, he would lead the American League in home runs and RBIs and strikeouts, by the way, but he also would have a 300 batting average.
Right.
I mean, he was just that good.
Right.
And he never did this right-handed, but left-handed. If he got two strikes on him left-handed, a lot of times he'd drag a bunt and beat it out and get a base hit because he'd catch everybody by surprise.
Right. That's why I like watching Miami Areza, or however you, sorry, I can't pronounce his name. His approach at the plate is awesome. Beautiful swing, slaps it the opposite way. Has a little Rod Carew in him. Um, you know, I can say remember when with Rod Carew.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I like to bring up guys I actually watched play to do comparisons. You know, Cecil Cooper and those guys. I
Rod
could bring up
Carew
some
and I mean, you had Rod Carew, George Brett, people like that. They could handle the bat.
right White Boggs.
Yeah, and they could handle the bat.
Like I just said, Cecil Cooper. Everybody forgets about that man. That guy could. He was a bigger fellow, but man, he could hit. I like to
Pete Rose,
imitate him back. Pete Rose, Tony Perez. We can go on and on. Joe
all the
Morgan.
Reds, all those Reds, all
We
those
can
Reds
go
back
on and
then,
on. Yeah.
they could handle the bat.
Yeah, we can go on and on with that. But let's get into what we were going to talk about, Dad. Let's get into. I'll let you go first. If today they said, Mike Hathcock, we've been listening to you spout your brilliance for years and decades. We're going to have you run the Washington Nationals. What would you do this year with the rebuild?
Well, I don't think I'd. First of all, they've already hired a young guy away from the Orioles to handle their scouting. That's the first thing they have to do. The main problem with the Washington Nationals now is pitching. They've got some young players that can play. They got a right fielder. They've got a right fielder. They've got a shortstop. It's very good. They brought up that kid to play center field. But their pitching, their bullpen was better than their starting pitching. But they just don't. Ross, who knows when he's coming back? So I mean, that's if I would concentrate. If I was trying to build that team just like everybody else, I'd be scrounging trying to find some pitchers. And it wouldn't have to be. I wouldn't be going after the Ceases and the big dollar guys. I'd just like to find some young guys that had good arms, and see if my coaches could work with them. Oh, by the way, they hired what's his name? Something is Cara. His last name Cara as the hitting coach, and they brought back the Baby Shark. They brought him back. He's going to coach first base.
Oh, nice.
So they're going to be doing. They said
that'll bring some energy in.
On one of the Washington stations the other night, they said they'd be doing the Baby Shark thing again in D.C. because he'll be coaching first base. So, I definitely. They've got some good young. They've got two good catchers, one real good one, and another kid that's good, and both of them are young. The shortstop's young. The first baseman's got some age on him, but he's a good first baseman and a pretty good hitter. But they need pitching. They just don't have the pitching, and that's the name of the game. If you can get all the hits you want, but if you can't pitch, you're done. I mean, how did the Rangers weren't expected to get where they got because in August their bullpen was so bad that once the starter left the game was over. Right. Because their bullpen couldn't stop anybody. And then I don't know what happened, but they caught fire right there at the right time. And when they got to the playoffs, after they blew the last week of the season, they got to the playoffs as a wild card team, and they went on from there. But they had to be that's one of those things where team gets hot and the pitchers that couldn't pitch suddenly can pitch. The guys that weren't hitting are starting to hit. And, but the Nationals, they have a good young team. They got a lot of speed, good defense. They just need pitching. And that's what I'd concentrate on.
Yeah. My 2 cents for that is I know you're talking about pitching. They do have a couple of really good arms right now. And I know they restocked a little bit in the minors. So there's some pitching they just need to develop it. I don't know. Mackenzie Gore looked like last year he was showing flashes of the guy that everybody thought he was going to be. I'm hoping he keeps developing that.
He ran out of gas.
Yeah. He hasn't played a full season since he's
when they got him,
made a pro team. He's been always hurt. Yeah. So he's got to get his arm. He's got to be able to pitch 30 games, right? So that is a thing that these pitchers that come out up, that's a thing, and or from overseas, they don't throw 30 meaningful high level games like that. They have, college, they don't always play the top teams every weekend when
Well, see, their number one draft pick was that kid from LSU that outfielder that was so good.
right.
So that a switch hitter, and so they drafted him, and they said he did real well down in single A.
Well, you got to think if he was college, they're looking for him to either make it in the team by the end of next year or the year after. If not, then it's kind of a bust at first pick if he's already in college. But yeah, I think to continue on, my thought was, I've said it before, they did what you're supposed to do. Old school baseball is build the middle and out. Keibert Ruiz is top-notch catcher. Shortstop at second, Garcia and Abrams, and that young center fielder they got can go get it. And I don't know how well he can bat, but he can't be any worse than Robles, and you still have Robles. So
and and the kid can throw.
Right,
he threw that guy at the plate. He had one of the best throwing putouts at the plate all year long.
Right. So I think out of all the teams that weren't very good this year, the bottom half, I think they're the ones that have the most potential. At least you can see what they're trying to do there. I know we have poo-pooed some of their thoughts in the past with Strasburg and Rendon and some of those other things they've done. But it looks like they're on the right track. So hopefully, that'll make the National League East a little bit better. So we'll see. I'm going to go with my team now, the Mets. That's why I put the Mets hat on. You've seen I haven't worn it in a long time. I was a little not happy with them. Come to find out, not everybody thought the coach was great and walked on water. Probably one of the reasons why he's not back, even though a lot of people, I still like him. What happens is it's usually a disciplinarian coach doesn't get the whole clubhouse. He only gets a portion. Not everybody gets on track with that. We'll see. First move that the Mets made this year was getting the bench coach from the Yankees to be their manager. I question it. He's a bench coach behind a guy that a lot of people thought should have been fired in the offseason on a team that's loaded. It had their issues. The Yankees were not as loaded as they usually are, but they should have scored more runs than they did. We'll see. I know he's a high touted coach.
Well, what happened with the council deal?
More money. He went to the Cubs.
Well, he got $8 million from the Cubs.
Well, he's got a 4-year, $40-some million.
$8 million a year.
Whatever. They compared it to Ozzie Albies, which is one of the best infielders in baseball. He gets 7 for 37 or something ridiculous. And
you know what Brian Snitker made?
What's that?
$1.5 million.
Yeah, and he's up for Coach of the Year, which he should not get. But
one of the highest paid managers make between $2 and $4 million.
They gave the
Cubs way
council was said he was going. And when they said he was going to the Latino, was going to offer the most money. So the Mets owner is crazy, but he's not that crazy.
Right.
He realizes it doesn't matter what coach you have if you don't have the players on the field.
Well, see, that's the thing. They got rid of their manager. Well, he didn't sign those people. He didn't sign the ancient pitchers. I mean, he didn't sign these people. He didn't trade these people.
It seems like there's some players on that Mets team that wasn't on board with him.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's when you don't
And
win.
some of them are really big names.
Well, when you don't win, you can't fire the team. You fire the manager or the coach.
Right, right. So, I didn't agree with the Nemo signing, how much they gave. I love that we signed him, but I don't agree with the amount. He was signed as one of the top center fielders in the game. I think he's in the top half, but he doesn't have the arm. He doesn't have the speed. Uh, I think this Thomas, anybody that the Diamondbacks put in center field is better than him. Just to name one team, I think Michael Taylor at the Dodgers is better. I can go on and on with center camera. I could go on and on with Nemo. Nemo's not even on the list for Gold Gloves, but he's paid like one. Or a Silver Slugger. He does have a good on base percentage, but man, in key moments of games, he strikes out or doesn't get the key hit. Frustrates the heck out of me. And he doesn't get the steals that you would think he should get in that top spot, and as fast as he is. But he's still, that's a position we don't have to worry about. Up the middle, we need a better second baseman. Hopefully, we're going to fix that with Ronnie Mauriciano. I have a feeling that Brett Beatty might not be with the team because they tried to get Donaldson from where's Donaldson at now? Toronto? Josh Donaldson. He moves around every 6 weeks.
He was with the Yankees, and then he went to Detroit.
I thought he was with Toronto.
Might be Toronto, yeah.
No, Chapman. I don't know.
Chapman's playing third base in Toronto.
Right.
He left the Yankees. He left Toronto to go to the Yankees. I thought.
Is that what I thought he left Minnesota to go to the Yankees, but
he moved
or
around.
Went to the Braves. I don't know. He's got more stickers on his luggage than anybody I know.
Yeah, he moves every time the Rents do.
Right, but anyway, that fell through, and I was kind of happy because he's a hothead. Just he's not a team player.
And he's old. He gets hurt all the time, and he's not that good a hitter anymore.
Right. There's other third basemen. Reese Hoskins' name is popping up now as a potential DH because that was a spot that the Mets were really, really hurting at, and it seems like the Mets are going to do whatever it takes to re-sign Pete, but I don't know if they're going to sell the farm to get Pete. And with Scott Boras as his agent, I think he has this 1 year left. But if you're not going to sign him, they said their priority is to give him an extension in the offseason. Why would that be their priority, Dad? Is because if you don't, what do you do with a guy you can't re-sign? You trade him and get as much as you can for him.
Right, exactly. Well, I saw this morning where they pretty much said they're out of the Ohtani deal because they're all in on the pitcher, the Japanese pitcher
Yamamoto. But it sounds like
the Yankees are after him too.
Sounds like the Yankees are going to win that one. What the last I read was that. But there's two pitchers over there. Even though that what the plus is for the Mets with him is Cody Senga and him are friends. They share an agent, and he can go over and instantly have a friend on a team that speaks the same language as him. I'm sure that would be a comfort. I know that is. You hear that a lot with the Hispanic players to have because even if they're Hispanic, not everybody speaks the same language, believe it or not. There's a lot of different dialects and everything in the Spanish culture. So when they have somebody that you're Costa Rican and you want to another Costa Rican on the team that understands, hey, I want to get something to eat, and they know what you want to eat, to and go get your hair cut or just to hang out and relax with. I would find that comforting myself. I would know personally that would be great. So I'm hoping that's an inside deal. We need a third baseman. Unless Brett Beatty gets better. I love Brett Beatty. I love his makeup. But we can't, if we want to win now, we can't wait on him. And we need another outfielder. We were desperate, had Kaha out there. I know they've been talking about bringing back Marte. Not Marte. Marte's injured. He'll be back. The guy that went to the Diamondbacks, Tommy Pham. But Tommy Pham talked a lot of smack about the Mets during the playoffs.
Well, they're talking. Atlanta's trying. From what I understand, Atlanta's might be putting a package together to get him.
Tommy Pham. Well, he's a free agent. He can play all three outfields, and I think he plays second and third as well. It's great to have that utility knife, and he can hit. I mean, he's just a strong man. He can run. But he was talking about how the Mets had no heart. They were just out there collecting a paycheck, basically, the way it sounded. So they need at least one outfielder. I wouldn't be mind if Conforto came back. I think he only signed a 1-year deal with the Giants. Can't remember. But we'll wait and see on the outfield. But the big thing to me is third and a DH. DH was horrible. Even though I saw numbers, they had Vogelbach, and they extended. Like if Vogelbach had as many at bats as Lindor, he would have had a higher. He would have knocked in 100 runs, had 30 home runs. It was some good numbers, but I just don't know if Vogelbach can do it every day. I don't know if that's your guy. I would love to see them sign Rhys Hoskins. I think they get Rhys on a good 3-4 year deal and not have to break the bank to do it. Him coming off of an injury, and that's a second big injury since he's been in the league. If I remember correctly, I know one of my Philly friends will correct me down below. And they desperately need a second pitcher behind Senga. Little note, Senga had more than 200 strikeouts this year. And that was the second highest rookie total for the Mets behind one Dwight Gooden. So that's good company. And he was a third. He was third he's in both, I believe, the Cy Young and Rookie of the Year talk. I know he's in Rookie of the Year. He was the third guy in that. So I'm happy to see that. There's a lot of good talent in the minors that he can either use for trade. Jet Williams has already came out and said he wants to be playing in New York this season. We'll see. With a guy with a name like that, he was destined to be a pro ball player. Jet Williams. It's almost like a comic book character.
Yeah.
But it's when you have a new coaching staff coming in, we've gotten used to the owner spending a lot of money, but you can't spend money every year, and you still are paying them for two guys that are not on your roster. You're paying large portions of their contract with the teams they're with now.
Well, the problem with both our teams is that they're in the same division, and they're in the same division with the Phillies and the Braves, right. And the Marlins made the playoffs. So,
and the Marlins,
those two teams are fighting for the table scraps.
Right. Yeah, the Marlins right now, they've built with adding little pieces. Marlins really love to get they draft pitching well. I don't know who scouts for them, but they always have good pitching coming through their minor league system, either through the draft or trades. So that means they're scouting as well, even on other teams when they're scouting minor league prospects. maybe we should try to get their scout. If you can't get the player, get the scout.
That's what they say about Tampa.
Right. And I mean, and we picked these two teams because these are two teams that we have personally invested in, and we read, we watch their stuff. So we really can't do this for all the teams because I can't go into minor league systems and start telling you who's got what in depth. But when moves are made this year, we'll definitely talk about that in the off season. We have the holidays coming up. So I don't know if we're going to be doing this on a couple of Mondays during the holidays, but we'll see. But there's definitely stuff to talk about in the off season.
Ron Washington signed as the manager for the
that was huge. I love second chances.
And he put together a pretty good coaching staff already.
Well, Ron Washington, I was telling the guy at work, this is a man that knows how to field. When people all-stars and all-stars and probable Hall of Famers come to you and ask you to help them with fielding, and they're already an all-star, you know what you're doing. You have their respect. I don't know if you got to see the thing on MLB when he's talking with Ozzy Albies doing his infield training and then talking to some rookie. I mean, he talks to you. He's one of those guys you're going to listen to. He is the Dusty Baker, that type of lineage. They talk, you listen. You shut up and listen. So, and I think I'm glad he's got he's got some skeletons. I'm glad he's gotten a second chance. I think everybody deserves a second chance if they.
He's 71, so
if you work hard for
so he probably won't be there for so long, 3 years
right.
maybe.
But man, I love listening to him talk about baseball. He knows his stuff. So,
and Houston's promoting the bench coach
to the manager's
position. The manager's position, yeah, that's pretty much a done deal. I feel sorry for Ross in Chicago. I think he got a bum, but I mean the Cubs, they jumped on Counsell. They got a chance to get him.
Yeah, so Ross got chipped out for taking a team that nobody thought was going to be a playoff contender. That became
the Cubs didn't want to get rid of him. The Cubs were not going to get rid of him until Counsell became available, and they jumped.
Why did you pay a ransom for a guy way over? I don't care if Counsell is the baseball god himself. You do not pay him that amount of money unless you want him. I mean,
well, that's what they did. They had a chance to get him, and they grabbed him. They outdid everybody.
Yeah, there's no limit on what you can pay. You can pay a coach whatever you want. It doesn't count against your payroll. Poor Ross. Let's see where he lands. That's going to be interesting because that dude, I think he's a baseball guy. That's a baseball man. I hope he lands on a bench coach or something with the Mets.
Yeah, and Bob Melvin in the Blue Notes, he left one team, went to the other. He's now in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Bob Melvin's another great catcher.
Yeah.
Catchers know their stuff, Cody Raw. I mean, I love it. Anything else, Dad, before we jump off of here today? Or
no, it's kind of it'll kind of be a few more awards, and the big thing now is going to be the free agency.
Not a lot of huge names, but there is some huge names. Ohtani. You got a lot of guys in their last year contracts, so you're kind of waiting to see what happens with them. And again, pitchers. We'll see where they go.
The glamour names, yeah, they're out there. But a lot of times, the free agent signings of some little Joe Blow from Kokomo that nobody heard of, all of a sudden he comes up there and helps you win a pennant.
Right. Right. Well, you got to have a great team. You got to have depth. That's no doubt. You got to be built for both sides of the plate. And in the pitching, you got to have a one, a two, and a true, and a three. That's almost like your 2B. Um, and you got to have that. You got to have a well-rounded bullpen, especially with this 3-out game. You got to pitch for 3 outs or whatever it ended in inning. That really made people have to think and show, because it drives me crazy. You're a professional pitcher. I don't care if you're right-handed, left-handed, throw it with your top lip. I don't care how you get the ball up there. You should be able to get out a batter. I don't care what they hit, right-handed, left-handed, especially when they show a guy he's a right-handed pitcher that right-handed hitters are batting 220 off of, and left-handers are batting 215. But he's going to a bullpen to get a left-handed pitcher to face this guy. It drives me crazy. I'm like, oh, but guys are batting 212 off of him, and the guy hits one up in the stratosphere off of him. It's crazy to me. Anyway, for me, last comments is we don't have the games to watch, but there's a lot to look for in the games. And you can always go and look at older games. I know I have friends that'll pull up World Series from the 80s and stuff like that. I usually watch the Brent Burns, thing, and, the historical stuff of baseball. And please don't ever tell me, remember when you can't remember when. Till next time, like, share, tell a friend, and we'll see you.